Ladies and gentlemen, we had land policies that was utterly innate by the mediarakyat at that time. It was years and years of hard experience that the mediarakyat faced without any areas and scope of solution. Pakatan Rakyat came in with a solution to the people of Perak that had been suffering for many years. We identified details of land banks belonging to state agencies and GLCs that became a point where those became their pocketing point. Many GLCs headed by UMNO Maroons, they used those GLCs, park land belonging to the state, and then they dispose of that land once it's parked under the GLCs. We identified those details of land bank belonging to these state agencies. Secondly, we listed all state land in commercial prime areas with a target of trying to open tender, open bid for any companies or individuals that have got the ability to participate in those open tender. Thirdly, we nullified all land approvals made by our predecessor to political parties. Mind you, Barisan Nasional approved land for UMNO, land for Msia, land for MIC, and Gerakan. Until those lands were not paid premium, we abrogated them and we abolished them. We disapproved them. And it was timely at that time, there were plenty of land which was approved, which has not been paid and cleared in premium. We actually abrogated those land deals. Any application, especially in commercial centers, was put in open tender, particularly in areas of Pintar Valley, Taiping, Teluk Intan, as well as Batu Gajah. Fifth, we could and imposed a levy of 10 ringgit per annum for any institutions of learning that is using and occupying state land. Only 10 ringgit per year for levy. We allowed 50 to 80% discount on premium on any land which is meant for agricultural products that would bring benefit to the state government, both long and short-term benefits. 1,000 hectares of lands which was vacant at that time was approved for 9 SUAs, Sekolah, private Chinese secondary schools. Perak happens to be the most private Chinese schools in Malaysia. We have 9 of those private schools. And every year, BN has been giving them 50,000 per year cash. When we came in February 2008, they wrote a letter to us asking for those funds. And we were not aware of at that time. What we did was, on long term, if we accord you 1,000 hectares of land, then you can actually start doing something, and all those products, whatever you can get revenue of it, to be shared by 9 private secondary schools belonging to private personnel. We also accord 1,000 hectares of land to 26 SAR, Sekolah Agama Rakyat. They were denied of their rights on per capita by the federal government. Therefore, at that time, we accord to them 1,000 hectares of land so that they can also utilize those land for their benefits. 349 planned villages, mostly 95% of them are Malays. We approved their land titles. 102,000 families, 102,000 lots were given freehold. They have been occupying those state land for the last 40 years without any grants. Only promises and promises by the government, especially towards election. On the same ticket, we approved for 134 new villages, comprising 95% of them are Chinese communities. Perak happened to have the largest number of new villages in Malaysia. Immediately, just before independence, they were forced to vacate their camping areas and migrated to the town areas. So most of the new villages are located in townships. Therefore, we approved 47,000 freehold titles, which gave us a very high premium rate because of their location. We released and abandoned all unsaleable bumi quotas for land as well as properties, and we let it go for the open market. That will also incur additional revenue for the state. Number 12, immense approval was needed at that time for any property that needed MB's consent. The Menteri Besar's consent took almost 4 to 5 months for any approval of land changing titles. But during our time, it was just hardly a few days that we can give them MB consent that they can start operating. That in itself indirectly brought revenue to the state government. Immediate approvals of all purchases and properties and land by foreigners. Any foreigners who would like to have a share in any of the properties in Perak, we gave them immediate approvals upon confirming that all conditions are met and provisions are met with. And 14, there was virtually no red tape and bureaucracy during our government because we believe that that would be an impetus for investors to come to Perak. So much so that UMW, for the first time in their history in Malaysia, they got the approval for the land that they wanted to build their own industry. And that was in Sungai Aceh, was approved within hardly 2 weeks. After 2 weeks of approval, there was groundbreaking ceremony. And they were saying that it was so fantastic that we could actually harp on, and it started, the words of mouth started spreading, that the PR government was able to remove red tapes and bureaucracy to allow more investors. We would them to come because that was one of the reasons why they were a bit skeptical in coming to Perak. We reactivated the mining industry in Perak because at that time, Perak mining industry was completely down. You have to also be aware that historically Perak was one of the richest states in the whole of Malaysia. It was recorded that at one point, Mercedes-Benz sold a lot of Mercedes-Benz in Perak because of the mining industry. Now it went down because of the price was bad. Now the price is probably about 30,000 USD per metric ton. So we believe that the rich tin deposits in Perak in 4 locations can be mined using the latest technology that we can get access into that rich tin deposits and enjoy that golden opportunity where the price of tin are probably high at the moment. There are 4 locations that we have identified that we can undertake to have a special modern techniques of accessing into this tin mining area. Number 1 is underneath the town of Batu Gajah, underneath the town of Gopeng, underneath the town of Kampai, and underneath the town of Tanjung Kuala. These 4 towns have got rich tin deposits underneath them. So the problem is how we're going to have access to those rich tin deposits without disturbing what is on the surface of the land. Therefore, we have the state-of-the-art technology to have access to those deposits to bring in more revenue for the state. And then we divided the timber concessions into 3 parts. One part was meant for the sawmilling, the manufacturers and sawmilling industry. Those factories that needed raw materials, 1/3 of them was supplied to them. The other 1/3 was given to any companies that have got the ability to do logging, and the other 1/3 was for special person, including the royals. Now, my dear friend, when we came in February 2008, at that time, the quota given to Perak government was 7,000 hectares per year. You can fell these trees 7,000 hectares per year. But we were only left with 5,000 because 2,000 had been used by the predecessor. So that 5,000 we divided into 3. Same category. The first category was to give to the factories and sawmilling mills. Second one was to open tender, 1/3 of them, open tender. And we managed to bring in revenue because of that open tender, tantamount to about 40 million for that 11 months. Whereas during Barisan Nasional, 55 years, 7,000 quota hectares per year, they only managed to bring in revenue to the state to the tune of only 13 million. For 7,000, 13 million. 1/3 of 5,000, 11 months, we brought in 40 million, let alone the sawmills and the rest. 17, we open up new planned villages for landless Perakians. Any Perakians, irrespective of race, color, and creed. So long as they are landless, they need to have a plot of land for them to build a home. We approve them. Initially, I was actually called by Tuan Guru Ni Aziz, our spiritual leader, at least twice per month. And he was saying that I'm responsible for PAS. You must make sure that if there are any Perakians, irrespective of race, irrespective of color and creed, the moment they are landless, they do not have a plot of land to build a house, you ought to approve them. That was an instruction by Tuan Guru Ni Aziz. A very specific category instruction. He said, I do not want to be responsible here in this life and the hereafter because I'm heading past. If one of my Menteri Besars is not fulfilling the poor, the landless in Perak, any land, I shall be responsible. So on that count, sometimes he called me at 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to find out what I did at 3 o'clock in the morning. Thanks God. And last but not least, number 18, we gave opportunities to many civil servants who were actually working in many land offices, they were working to approve land for other people, but they themselves were not given a piece of land. So we gave them priority. Any government servant working to help the Perakhian to achieve land, but if they are landless, we also gave them some priority. For the first time in the Perak history, that civil servant working land office, they were not given any land. We approved them automatically without them requesting for it. Auditor's Report 2008. For the first time in Malaysian history, in the Perak history, the maximum revenue collection by Barisan Nasional over the last 55 years at that time was only 534 million. That was the maximum that they could collect for the state of Perak. 11 months we were in office because of whatever we did in open tender for the logging concession and commercial land. We managed to increase for 11 months a revenue to the tune of 634 million, an increase of 100.4 million. We're only talking about 11 months. Give us 11 years. We will move like a rocket. 1,000 hectares of land was allocated for AirAsia. They were in the midst of trying to locate the best location for LCCT at that time. We managed to identify in Behran, in Tanjung Malin. Already meetings were on the way with Tony Fernandez, and they were already interested to transfer and put in 2 billion of investment there to have an AirAsia city. But we were short-lived because we didn't proceed with it. And now, even the existing government didn't proceed with it because LCCT was given another location to AirAsia. At the same time, we also discovered there's huge deposits of mineral underground water in Batam Padang, which is quite close to the Bernam Valley. And we had already negotiation with Selangor Water Board. They wanted to move these without any treatment because they are pure. There are pure mineral water in Batam Padang that we discovered. And we got Saim Dabi to do it. But Saim Dabi left in the lurch, and we were also kicked out, and the government didn't proceed with it. Now, up to now, the rich mineral water deposits in Batam Padang is left untouched. We can produce something like 500 MLPD, 500 million liters of mineral water per day. That is exceeding the allowable limit by the Malaysian authorities on taking water from underground. Now Perak has that. We provide 30 for the first 30 meter cube for 17,000 poor families in Perak living below 740 per month, free water supply. We couldn't afford that what Selangor government did because they gave free water supply 20 meter cube across the board. We only allowed, and we were only capable of giving to 17,000 families 30 meter cube for the first 30 meter cube FOC. On top of that, they got to pay. But if we had managed Perak for a much longer period, we could have even emulated what Selangor government did. So all Perakians will enjoy the spectacle what they have. For the first time in Malaysian history, 817 kampungs, villages far away, remote villages, they were supposed to be elected their village heads. We had an open election. We had a nomination day, we had a week of campaigning, and we asked the villagers to choose their own leaders. 817 leaders were chosen on open democracy principle. We wanted to have it on township as well, but we didn't manage. Council members in Perak, 15 local government, 15 of them, we didn't manage to have open election or free election to elect the councils. We only allocated 30% of the council members from respective NGOs, not coming from any political party past DP Kandelan. We provided 1,500 ringgit gifts for children who secured first degree in any public universities. Then we offered them 1,500. The existing government emulate and copy that. And finally, 26 funeral expenses for any of their close relatives that passed away exceeding 65 years of age. We gave them funeral expenses 1,000 if they earn 1,000 household income less than 1,500 per month. GE 13 outlook for Perak. PAS I got 21 seats, PKL 20 and DAP 18 seats, comprising 59 altogether. Forecast victory for Pakatan Rakyat total 38 seats. We had some mock-up election. We also had some research and studies by our internal party organs. And we discovered that easily we can get, inshallah, 38 seats out of 59. Previously, we managed only to have 31. There was a reason why Najib focused on Perak, because he thought that the Muslim majority could easily be turned over, and he did. We were, for the first time, very cohesive among Pakatan Rakyat in Perak. For the first time, we were not prepared in 2008. In this coming 13, we were completely prepared. Our workings together in Perak has been one of the best in the whole of this nation. We have meetings almost every week, Pakatan leaders in Perak. Talk about strategy, divisions of seats. We even spread out the profiles of each candidate. We didn't want to repeat what happened in 2008. We established a strategy where all parties must open up their respective profiles of their candidates so that we can give a comment and a critique on all the candidates. We were financially sound now. All of a sudden, some rich millionaires who had their investment somewhere outside Perak, they came back and they said, we're going to help Pakatan Rakyat, and they gave us literally blank checks to help Pakatan Rakyat. When they came up in the paper, some of these individuals, philanthropists, they gave us financial assistance, which we never experienced in 2008. In 2008, we had to scramble for money. But in 2009, in this election, 2013, we are quite sound. Batch of credible candidates, young professionals. I must tell you, in Perak alone, pass out of 21, we're going to put at least 7 doctors, philosophy doctors as well as medical doctors. And a mix of good male and female mix in Pakatan Rakyat Perak. We also have a secretariat for each parliamentary constituency. Every constituency, 24 numbers in Perak, they have got a Pakatan Rakyat secretariat. They have got weekly meetings, monthly meetings to talk about what they should do in respective constituency. In conclusion, 11 months, first time experience in Perak, there was no racial discrimination. For the first time in Perak history, Mayo Chong Yu Yui. Equal distribution of wealth and resources. That was our ultimate aim. Perak is one of the richest states in the whole country. Used to be the richest state, but now it's number 6 poorest state. No corruption at all levels. No corruption at all levels. Until now, there is no single Pakatan Rakyat leader in Perak has been charged. Until now, for the last 5 years. Speedier land approvals. For UMW, we'll approve in less than 14 days. We approve them. The reason because there is no corruption, there is no red tape democracy. You can get this. You can have the political will to do that. And that's what we did. And we're going to continue doing that because we were short-lived. No spillages and wastages. We asked in the session recently in November, how much the existing government, they spread throughout the state all Zamri's picture, his banners and his buntings. We asked questions, how much taxpayers' money did you spend to identify your beautiful picture? And he didn't answer. High religious and racial tolerances. For the first time in Perak history, high tolerances in religion as well as in racial differences. Observe minority rights. We have Siamese in Perak, we have Sikh in Perak, and we have Orang Asli, minority in Perak. We have given them the record that 11 months we observe their rights. We have observed their inalienable rights according to the Constitution, and they have enjoyed it. So we're giving the same promises that the minority rights will be observed. Educational opportunities for all. I was in Singapore after 4 months being the Chief Minister of Perak. We traveled from Perak using 2 buses. I didn't allow them to use Air Asia even. We traveled by bus, it took us 8 hours to arrive in Singapore. And we had special briefing with all the Singapore agencies. And mind you, several of those agencies are led by Perakian. We went to the botanical garden, and the chief of the botanical garden, he came from Tua Intan. So we thought there was a sparring brain drain from Perak into Singapore. The that's why there's always a saying that says that if you're a smart Indian, you go to medical schools. If you're a smart Chinese, you look for investment banks. If you're a smart Malaysian, you go to Singapore. We created pools for Perakians investing outside to come back to Malaysia, to come back to Perak. Now there are many rich Perakians who are coming from Ipoh. They park their interests outside Perak, maybe in Selangor and Hong Kong, even in Indonesia. So we wanted to woo them back, and we had several meetings with them here in the Klang Valley as well as in Perak. And they had the most interest. They said this is a different government. There's a lot of pull factor now. We want to come back because we are Perakians. And the great majority of them was, one of them was Dr. Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia. He had a lot of investment outside Perak. And he wanted to come to Perak. And he said, I will open up the Lost Tambun world. The only thing I asked from the Perak government before, to have a slip road from Plus Highway right into Tambun town. And that was not approved by the state government. The same issue came to me. In hardly 2 hours, I approved it. I said that 10 million cost of slip road is nothing for the state if you're going to pour in 400 million in Tambun. And it was approved in no time. And he even poured in 1.5 million because the state made a quick decision. I poured in 1.5 million. Deal was made in hardly 2 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, the brain drain, which is now a big problem in Perak, is also, I understand, from the whole nation, is beginning to creep into our state, into the nation now. That has to be resolved. And we now creating a lot of pull factors for them to come back to Perak with all this mining industry, agro-tourism, aquaculture, as well as health and medical tourism. We believe that they will come back to Perak again because there is golden opportunity for them in Perak under the new government. So that ends up with the first session. Outlook for Perak. That's what was. We expounded last year, towards the end of last year, a revenue of 1.2 billion. Development received 48 million, total income of 1.262 billion. As opposed to Barisan Nasional's budget, 935 million, deficit another 35 million. Our expenditure will be common expenditure, 24 million from the federal government, supply 759 million, developments 478 million, a total expenditure 1.262 billion. For the first time in Perak history, 2013, there will be a balanced budget. Sorry? There's a deficit of just 5,000. That's okay. In comparison to Barisan Nasional's budget, still deficit of 35 million, they could only churn a revenue of 935 million. Ladies and gentlemen, they ridicule our budget. And we were saying that there was actually a practical budget. How practical it was. Perak has got the largest land bank belonging to Feltra. For the last 35 years, the Perak government did not enjoy anything from Feltra. Because of the federalism at that time, they went to Feltra pocket and directly going to UMNO as well. So we aspire to call the management of Feltra, you have 50,000 acres of land bank in Perak. We did not enjoy anything. So let us be fair and reasonable to people of Perak. Now we assume that we could actually fetch an amount of 40 million per year from the operations of Feltra alone. That is one source of income. Number two, we in Perak have got the longest stretch of Highway Plus from Tanjung Malim right until Parit Bunta, almost 200 kilometers. And we're not enjoying a single cent. They collected tolls every day. All this fund goes to UMNO company, concession companies. Therefore, we had the intention to call the Plus as well as the LLM managers so that we can have a discussion. Shall you be fair with Perak as well as the Perak government? So that operations alone, because the whole land belongs to state government. At that time, when it was at the BN and the federal government, they gave it almost free. Under this new government, we thought that is our right. You have to be fair to us. We envisage an income of 30 million from Plus every year. Main thrust, as mentioned to you, to democratize the economic principles and policies in Perak. We have allocations of incomes as well as allocation for respective fields within the economic spheres and transaction. I will let the exhibition managers to have these copies that they can distribute to you. There's the enablements. We also have allocated 40 million to remove abject poverty in Perak. 5,000 abject poverty in Perak, 5,000 families, earning less than 500 per month. So we targeted that 40 million can be used to upgrade their household income 760,000 per month minimum. So the government is going to top up. Anything below that shall be 760. There shall be no more abject poverty in Perak anymore. That is 40 million. 15 million for Orang Asli allocation, as well as non-Islamic affairs. We wanted to enrich the state as well, by giving premiums and approvals for titles. And last but not least, to empower state agencies, state government, so that they can also enrich themselves and start making money for the whole state and be good for the whole Perak. So ladies and gentlemen, I'll just wait for your question answers. That'll be my final presentation. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Young Governor.